everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing very well today. I am here to share a full walkthrough and review of the Daemon Tarot by Ariana Osborne. Contrary to the name of the deck, this is a 69 card oracle, and it is inspired by the original illustrations by Louis Breton and the writing of Jacques-Auguste Simon Colin de Plancy, and their 1863 edition of the Dictionnaire Infernal, which was a grimoire and collection of various demons, both from kind of the Abrahamic tradition, what we might be more familiar with the Goetia, but also from traditional European folklore, and some Hindu deities as well. It's a very, very interesting cultural mishmash. The deck was first published via Kickstarter, I believe in late 2012 or early 2013, and then it was picked up by Sterling Ethos Publishing for mass market distribution, and that edition came out in November 2013. I purchased my copy in 2017. I think that this might have been the very first Oracle deck that I ever got. Like, this deck and I go way, way back. I think retail price at the time was around $20, and it's still available for $19.61 on Amazon at the time of filming this review. So I'm very, very excited to talk about this deck because I've had it for such a long time, because it occupies such a unique and wonderful and irreplaceable space in my collection. And this was a very, very fun one to research. There's so much history packed into this deck. There's so much great nuance and cultural commentary as well about what we deem to be demonic, and particularly deconstructing the beliefs that de Plancy and other occultists at the time had towards minority religions, and demonizing Hinduism, demonizing Judaism, demonizing all of these cultural forces and other religions that they were not able to fully understand. So for a little bit of background, and I will leave a timestamp if you want to skip all of the history lesson, I promise we're going to get into the specs, we're going to do the full walkthrough and everything like that, but the history of this is so fascinating to me. So de Plancy was a 19th century French occultist, and he actually got his start publishing a lot of different books about European history, about feudalism, before getting into folklore and beginning to collect all of these different stories about demons. The first edition of the Infernal Dictionary, or the Dictionnaire Infernal, I can't speak French, so I'm trying so hard not to butcher it, but that first edition came out in 1818, and there were several editions published over the course of his life. Now, what's interesting is that de Plancy was initially a rationalist, and in the early editions of the book, he would post disclaimers saying that hell belonged to the poets, and that theologians should leave to the poets the depiction of hell and not themselves seek to frighten minds with hideous paintings and appalling books. So he was very much coming from the perspective that these were all stories, these were all fake. But in 1830, he had a very sudden conversion to Roman Catholicism, and subsequent editions of the dictionary reflect that, where he begins to entertain the idea that these are real entities. He even teamed up with a French priest named Jacques-Paul Meunier to complete a dictionary of the occult sciences for the Roman Catholic Church. And at that point, he also went on to denounce different forms of divination, including cartomancy. So he was very much a polarizing figure in his life because he had these two camps of fans, so to speak, some of whom were really, really into the occult, and his work would go on to influence subsequent books on demonology, and then also he had this base within the Roman Catholic Church later on in life, and very, very polarizing. What I found to be interesting, though, is that he was a direct influence upon S.L. MacGregor Mathers, who published The Lesser Key of Solomon. And Mathers actually took so much inspiration from this book that he took the original illustrations that Louis Breton had made for the dictionary and then published them in his edition of the Lesser Key of Solomon. Louis Breton is also a fascinating figure. He was not an occultist at all. He was actually a marine painter. So he would go on different French naval ships and he would paint pictures of the ship, pictures of all of the different islands that they would travel to. I'm not sure how he and Duplancy crossed paths and how he was commissioned to make all of the illustrations, but he took all of that experience from being a naturalist and really played up the animalistic features of the different demons, really played up to this sense of whimsy, and very much makes it feel like these creatures could perhaps exist in the natural world. There's very much that scientific eye to detail, which is fascinating to me. So now that we have gone through all of the history, we know that this is something that definitely influenced the Goetia, but it is not going to be exactly like the Goetia. It's going to include all of these other ideas that Duplancy was familiar with. Now let's go ahead and look into the specs of the deck itself. So it comes with this very hard shell, glossy sterling ethos box that they were quite known for at that time. I don't know if they're still doing this style or not. We have this information. What does the Daemon Tarot hold in store for you? Summon the power of infernal beings to guide you on your path. For the 1863 6th edition of his Dictionnaire Infernal, a volume filled with entries about magic and the occult, demonologist Jacques-Auguste Simon Colin Duplancy commissioned over 500 unique engravings, including 69 signed illustrations by Louis Breton, mostly compelling portraits of named demons. Now, author Ariana Osborne has created a matched set of 69 cards out of Breton's works and written a companion book of illustrated entries for each. These entries detail each demon's attributes, compiled not only from the Dictionnaire, but from a variety of other sources. Osborne's own interpretations and insights into the subject of each card, and focused meanings to use in a traditional 1-card draw or a 6-card spread. The next best thing to dragging a demon into your living room to answer all your questions. It includes 69 illustrated demon cards and a 160-page book, including interpretations of each card that can be applied to a variety of life experiences, from making major financial decisions to general daily advice. And then, let's see if I can open it, because this box is very temperamental. But this box has like the split indentations on the inside for you to store your cards, and it caused quite a stir back in the day actually, because the size of the cards varied just slightly from the left side of the box from the right side of the box, and there were a lot of early reviews that slammed that. My copy definitely does not suffer from that issue, and I'm sure that in 2023 at the time of filming that issue has also been resolved. Just think it's important to note. The book is really, really fantastic. I have tabbed off some important cards that I want to be able to point out as we flip through, but it is really, really amazing quality. You have your table of contents with all of the demons in the deck listed. You have a really beautifully written preface by Ariana. And then for the card meaning section, you have a full reproduction of the original image from the dictionary and also the card image. You have the annotation, which is historical information about the history of that demon, where it comes from. Inspiration, which tells us what the demon may or may not be historically summoned for, and then the divination section, which is a 1 or 2 short sentences about how to be able to interpret the card in a standard reading. So I really, really love this. It's just absolutely chock full of information. Very, very beautifully well done. Hats off to Ariana, because she really approaches this from all angles. the historical aspect, the psychological aspect, as well as being able to distill very practical advice. Now, let's go ahead and flip through the 69 cards themselves. The backs here say Le Carte Infernale, and this is the 70th image that Breton made. So a fun fact is he signed all the images of the demons except for this one. So it's very lovely to have it fully restored and to kind of have the full images together as a set. Now, deck comes in alphabetical order, and I am going to go ahead and flip through these guys now. We have Abraxas. Abraxas is an ancient god whose name gives us the mystical word abracadabra. The demonographers made him into a demon with the head of a king and snakes instead of feet. Abigor. Abigor, also Eligor or Eligos, is a fallen angel and Duke of Hell. He is described by demonographers as a handsome knight carrying a lance and standard, having 60 military units under his command. So we do, in addition to getting the full image and the name of the demon, we also have a short condensed paragraph from the guidebook letting us know who they are. Adramelech was an ancient sun god in the twin cities of Sepharvaim. Am I pronouncing that right? Sepharvaim. He was later designated as a ruling demon of hell with the head of a mule and some aspects of a peacock. Agaris. Agaris was once a member of the Angelic Order of Virtues and is now a Grand Duke of the eastern region of Hell with 30 legions at his command. Alastor. Alastor is the strict executioner who carries out the sentences passed down by the rulers of Hell. The word Alastor may also refer to any avenging spirit or the personification of wrathful justice. Alocer, also Alocer or Aloces, is a Duke of Hell with 36 military units under his command. He appears as a knight riding an enormous steed. His face is like a lion's with a ruddy complexion and fiery eyes. Amdusius. Amdusius is a Duke of Hell in command of 29 legions. He conducts invisible instruments in melodious concert, and the trees bow to his voice. Amun, possibly related to the Egyptian Amun, is a fire-breathing Marquis of Hell. He has the body and teeth of a wolf, the tail of a serpent, and the head of an owl. 40 military units are at his command. Andras. Andras is a Marquis of Hell in command of 30 military units. He carries a pointed sword and rides a large black wolf. Demonologists describe him as having the body of an angel with the head of an owl. Asmodeus is a lustful king of hell with 3 heads, one a bull, another a ram, and the third a man breathing fire. He walks with a limp and rides a lion with the wings and neck of a dragon. Astaroth, whose name is the masculine version of Astarte, the Phoenician Venus, is a Duke of Hell with the face of an angel. He rides a winged beast, and 40 military units are under his command. So to kind of speed this up, I'm not going to read all of the quotes, but that gives you a basic idea. The ones that we just saw are very consistent with the demon listings in the Goetia, and also has information about like where they rank within the demonic hierarchy. I'm not into demonology on the level that like I care about that. It's very much an academic pursuit for me, but it is really interesting to have that kind of information if you wanted to use this as a jumping off point for further research. Now let's go ahead and continue. We have Azazel. What's really cool is that this is actually inspired by the scapegoat from the Torah. So for Yom Kippur in ancient times, it was customary to draw lots to see which goat would be released out into the wilderness. and which goat would kind of stay and be sacrificed as part of a meal to break the fast. And the goat that was sent out into the wilderness was symbolically bearing the load of the sins of the Jewish people that they were atoning for. Because Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement and rededication to God. And that is kind of where we begin to get this imagery of the goat being associated with the shadow or with a demonic aspect once we start getting Christian interpretations of the Torah. So very, very fun history there. We don't send goats into the wilderness anymore, by the way. We have Baal, Barbatos, Balan, Beelzebub, Behemoth, Belphegor, Berith, Berevra. Now, this is where we start getting the Hindu influence coming in. So, in the 18th and 19th centuries, that was when a lot of Hindu epics started becoming translated into English for the first time. And Rava, as is written here, is very loosely based off of one of the manifestations of Shiva, who was normally associated with destruction, yes, but also specifically with destruction of the guilty, with destruction of wrongdoers. And here we can see that aspect, which, while certainly nuanced, would have had more of a protective or more of a benevolent energy within the original context of Hindu tradition being construed here as a force of fear. We also too get some entries that are related specifically to European witchcraft. So we have brooms, of course, the image of an old witch stealing a baby. Then we get back to the Goetia. So we have Buer, Buffonite, who is actually a magical toad. And it was believed that bezors, or the stones that frogs could produce in their stomachs, could be used as magical tools in medieval witchcraft. Here we have Cacrinolas, also Glaciolabulas, if you were going based off of traditional Goetia spelling and pronunciation. Here again, we have Kali. So once more, this goddess who contains multiple aspects, who is definitely both a goddess of destruction, but also a goddess of love and protection, and very much a mother to her devotees. So we can see here really, from the European worldview, taking that which they do not understand and casting it as demonic. So we have Came, Cerberus, Deamus, Euronome, Flaga, who is actually a Scandinavian fairy. Flavros, Forcas, Furfur, Gangagrama, Garuda, so yet another Hindu god, another Hindu hero, cast as a demon, Gomberi, Haburim, Ipes, Lamia, Lechis, who I believe, yeah, he's another European folk spirit. He's of Slavic origin. Leonard, which is so fascinating to me. This is like Green Man, or very much like European devil imagery, with a man who has the head of a goat, who is the grand master of the witches' sabbats in the woods, seductor, all of that good stuff. Lucifer, Malphas. I'm actually gonna set him aside because I have some things to say later on about him. Mammon, Marchosias. I have no idea if that's like meant to be Hebrew or not. Melchon, Malach, I think Michaeli is how you pronounce this. She was the witch of Thessaly and is known in Greek mythology. Nicar, Nibis, Oribas, Payman, Picolas, Pruflas, Rehovart, Ribosol, Ranove. We have another witch card for Sabbat. So one thing that I really, really love and appreciate about the guidebook here is that she goes into the relationship between European conceptions of the devil and witchcraft, and how a lot of those archetypes grew out of anti-Semitic stereotypes. So Sabbat is directly derived from the Hebrew word Shabbat, which is of course our holy day. And unfortunately, because Jewish people were so heavily demonized in medieval society, particularly in medieval French society, there was often speculation that Jews were practicing sorcery, that Jews were stealing children to grind up and to make challah out of, and to make matzah out of. And there were often many genocides, pogroms, that were committed across medieval Europe, specifically on Shabbats, and also specifically around Jewish holidays like Passover, because they believed that Jews were using those holy days to try to cause magical harm to Christian children. So she really, really goes into all of that history, acknowledging both the kind of modern imagined conception that we have of a witch's Sabbat as being a source of magical power and ritual, and it certainly is for many modern witchcraft traditions, I'm not denying that. But also, again, talking about this theme of who is the other, like who is the enemy, like who are we casting as demonic within society historically, and how can we avoid falling into those patterns today? I think that's really the core philosophy behind the guidebook, and why I really, really love Ariana's writing and depth of research so much. Moving on, we have Skox, Stolas, an eternal favorite, I think. Top, Torngersuk, Ukobach, Volok, Vual, the Witch's Round. So I believe that this is our final European witchcraft card, and this is talking about a ritual dance around a fire. following Leonard or following the devil in revelry. Saffan. Yangatitan, who is a spirit, a ghoul from the Brittany region of France. And then last but not least, we have Zebus. So Ariana has really done an incredible job of recreating the original artwork in high quality, preserving all of the really beautiful details in these original sketches. And again, both the information on the card itself, but also the full entries in the guidebook are really fantastic and really packed full of this fantastic, nuanced historical narrative for you to follow. The cardstock, by the way, is very thick, kind of typical Sterling ethos. Not quite as thick as, say, the Sherlock Holmes Tarot, which was also published around that time, and I used to have, but don't have anymore, so I can't use that as a point of comparison. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good shuffler. In fact, I can usually get a pretty good riffle and bridge out of this deck. So really, really great. Highly enjoy. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the personal experiences that I've had with this deck. In case you couldn't tell already, like, this is a deck that I very much love. So we've had a lot of really powerful memories together. To preface all of this, I'm not an actual practicing demonologist. I'm completely an armchair. I just enjoy learning about the history. I enjoy how all of these different historical narratives and all these different cultural narratives can coalesce into the creation of this kind of thought process. And normally when I approach using either the Demon Tarot or the Fallen Angels Oracle, it's now using a psychological model. I'm not actually consciously trying to commune with any of these entities or trying to summon them into my living room, as the box would say. That being said, the energy of the Demon Tarot is palpable. It is fiery. I remember when I got it, I unwrapped the box, I took the cards out, and instantly it felt like there were just flames absolutely licking up my hands and up my arms, so much so that I dropped the deck. And then I freaked out because I had dropped the deck. And so this is the only deck that I've actually cleansed through a combination of using selenite and also saying some protective prayers over it. And of course, at that time, I was very much spooked, and became even more spooked because I was using this deck in the recommended method, where Ariana really emphasizes that this is a one-card draw of a deck, and I absolutely agree. Sometimes 2 cards if it's feeling particularly chatty, but this is very much like you draw 1 card a day, or you draw 1 card for each situation that you want to look at, and you just sit with the message. And those messages are immediate, they are fiery, they are funny, they are witty. Sometimes they can be a little bit vulgar. Like, this deck will definitely call you out on your bullshit. This deck will definitely point out things that are in the subconscious, things that you are not currently aware of, or maybe that you are in very strong denial about. And so in that way, it's very good for shadow work, but also it is the most accurate deck that I have for predictive readings without even trying. So the reason why I pulled Malphus out is because this guy has been a harbinger of doom for me. So Malphus is like really, really associated with building, like physical construction projects. And in the book, Ariana talks about like, you need to be on a firm foundation, blah, 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 blah. No, this guy is like full tower energy for me. So I've pulled him twice. Once when I was a sophomore in college, and then once last June 2022. Both times within a few days of pulling that card, like we're talking 48 hours, my apartment flooded and I had to evacuate and live in another location for 1 week before I could move back in. You know, not fun. Weird that it happened twice. But this guy was definitely there. This deck has also pointed out just so many things like going on in relationships that I wasn't aware of. This card has definitely been able to flag bad exes before I knew what that situation would turn into. But it's also very much emerged, I think, as a true friend and as a true companion, because I know that out of all of the decks in my collection, regardless of the fact that this is fiery, regardless of the fact that this is shadowy, regardless of the fact that this deck is very much a product of cultural fear and a response to educate and to combat that cultural fear, you know, at the end of the day, it's all of these really powerful things, but it's primarily an honest friend. Like, I know that this deck is going to tell me the truth. And that is why it has been a staple for all these years. That's also why I felt kind of weird talking about it, because there's just so much to go into. And I could talk for ages about how much I love this deck and about how enlightening and empowering it has been for me personally. But I'm going to leave that there. Final thoughts are that this is absolutely the best demon deck on the market. I think that if you are looking for a deck about demons that is affordable, that is mass market, and that is high quality, and that is going to give you great historical value and context, like, this is it, bar none. And I also would want to note that I think, just like Duplancy, displayed some ambivalence during his life about whether or not demons are real or fake. I want to emphasize that belief is a powerful thing. So I'm not somebody who believes in demons as physical entities, but I believe that learning about the folklore, learning about the mythology around them, learning about this historical record can be very helpful in doing shadow work, and has also made me just a more educated and well-rounded person. And so if you are worried about bringing demons into your home, if you're worrying about accidentally summoning entities with this deck, no, absolutely not. Is it going to be honest? Yes. Is it going to have a personality? Yes. If you're sensitive to energy, does it have fiery energy? Yes, but it does not have a negative energy. It tells you what you need when you need it. So that is my full walkthrough and review video of the Daemon Tarot by Ariana Osborne, complete with plenty of stories and deviations along the way. I would be very interested to hear if anybody else has this deck, if you love it, if you hate it, what your thoughts are. And as always, I am sending you all much love and much light as you walk along your own path. Bye.